Hey guys, Preston here from CWI Performance. I'm joined today by Billy Johnson, who's been consulting on the Fox body. As some of you guys may know, we ended up with a little bit of trailer issues over this last weekend, and also we ran into some issues with the Godzilla motor, so it kind of put a damper on things about being able to get to the Charlotte Motor Speedway for the first round of the Optima Series. But we did end up going out to the track itself and enjoying our time. But yeah, what did you think of the whole track?
So yeah, really unfortunate that the Foxzilla didn't make it out to that event, but you guys worked really hard to get the C10 and the GT350 out for us to still be able to compete, or you to be able to compete, and me, Coach, you and your dad, which you guys killed it last year. So I was looking forward to working with you guys, but unfortunately that trailer incident prevented you guys from getting there on time. But the Charlotte Roval is really awesome. It was the track layout that the NASCAR Cup cars compete in on the Roval. So the same straightaway, chicane, banking, and infield configuration as the stock cars run. And definitely need to see the Optima cars out there on that track.
Yeah, it's definitely been cool. I mean, this last year, obviously working with you and being able to get instruction from you, like the Optima series has given this like perfect opportunity to be able to compete and also come out and have fun, and then as well as that, be able to provide that opportunity for education for other drivers and whatnot. So like, I think after you started joining us, I've been noticing more and more people have ride along instructors with them. So that's awesome to see overall in that whole series. But anyway, enough kind of about that. What we thought would be cool is to kind of give you guys a walk around of the Fox body. We've got a lot of questions on some of the more detailed things about the car. So with Billy here, this is the first time he's seen it in, what, 6 months?
Pretty much.
So we thought it would just be a great opportunity to just kind of walk through the car, show you all the cool little knickknacks and what we really put in time and effort into making this car so unique. So I'll grab the camera and we'll kind of give a walk around of the whole vehicle.
Go ahead. So the purpose of Foxzilla has many different reasons, one of which is giving Preston a faster, more capable car to drive, because he killed it in the C10, won the championship, won 4 races in a row, and definitely needed a platform to step up his driving ability that's just outright faster, and this definitely is. But also just as important, if not more important, is the engine. The Ford 7.3 liter Godzilla, this specific application is built by Indy Power Products, and you can't just throw a Godzilla in a Fox body or in pretty much any car, because of the oil pan, and the oil pump inside the oil pan is so deep and so long that the engine would be like sitting really high up and out of the car, and you couldn't really fit it. So Indy Power Products solved all those problems with their front engine cover and oil pan setup that's very versatile, that you can put it into pretty much any car application. So this car was built to showcase and also do R&D and test Indy Power Products engine, platform, and whole engine program. So the Fox body Mustang was selected, which is not the most robust chassis if you ever owned one, and I have. They're a little bit flimsy and tinny, so there's a lot of work that you need to do to stiffen up the chassis to prevent it from snapping in half. So also in Iowa, there's not a whole lot of rust-free cars, so this car was a little bit rough, and as we were just chopping out all the cancerous rust, we saw what we had left. And also from my perspective, consulting on this car, is how do we have good suspension geometry? And the Fox body Mustang for road racing does not have the best front suspension geometry, and Detroit Speed has a really cool full Aluma frame front end suspension setup that bolts to a late 60s Mustang. And since the original frame rails were a little bit roached out, we thought, hey, let's just graft on brand new repop 1960s Mustang frame rails. Let's use the Detroit Speed front Aluma frame and suspension geometry and graft it onto our Fox body. And that's exactly what we did. So everything is being built around the engine, the frame rails, positioning, and everything was built to be ideal for handling because this is a very large engine. We were able to get the whole engine behind the front wheel center line, which is great for handling Corvettes, Vipers, Mercedes, AMG GTs. A lot of really good handling front engine cars have the whole engine behind the front axle, and we were able to do that here. And looking into it, we have the billet intercooled intake manifold. So there's a massive intercooler deep inside that billet intake manifold to keep this 1400 horsepower cool. We have a massive Pro Charger, by the way. This thing, like my fist, this thing could eat my fist. So that thing is making tons and tons of power. And this intercooler intake manifold setup's able to keep that in check. Also, to keep the motor cool is Dewitts radiator and an intercooler, and that intercooler, or the front heat exchanger, is bigger than a lot of radiators on some cars. You can see how thick that is compared to the radiator. And then behind the radiator we have the engine's oil cooler and a GC cooling radiator fan to make sure everything is in check temperature wise when the car is running at lower speeds and stationary. For up front, we have beautiful forged line wheels, and I'm really happy to have partners like Brembo be a part of this program. Their GTR caliper and rotor setup, like it's meant to be a club and track day type braking system, but there's a lot of motorsport technology and quality materials in there. It's not a hot rodded brake setup. This is like race grade level stuff, and which is really important when this car is going to go as fast as it does. It's important to have quality and high performing brake systems to haul it back down. So we have a massive engine and we have massive brakes to make sure that we're able to stop it. So this car, because it is a test mule, there's a bunch of sensors on it. So ideally you'd like to have sensors on everything to make sure that all your parameters are in check and nothing goes wrong, but this car and this test platform definitely takes that to the nth level with sensors on in front and after every heat exchanger, intercooler, radiator, air intake temperature, temperature prior to the intercooler and after the intercooler, so both the front heat exchanger and on the engine itself, to really be able to quantify all the changes that we do. That's crucial to know what those temperature differences are and the true benefit of everything that the CWI performance develops. So that's why you see so many sensors on here. The harness is made by Sam and the guys at Off the Line Performance. Great mil-spec wiring harness, and like I said, it's just so extensive with sensors literally on everything. We have EGT ports on every single runner, and that's also to just further refine this engine platform, so when it goes out to customers and the intake manifold, engine program, and all the future products from CWI Performance, like their PWM controllers and electronic controllers that will be out soon, are proven, tested in an extreme level, and also tested properly with everything known. So when we make a change to make the performance better, we can quantify exactly what that is, what the next weakest link is, fix that, and keep on going until we have a really solid performance product that will be able to handle anything that you can throw at it. So from the engine bay, looking a little bit deeper into the engine bay is one of my favorite features, and I know it's Preston's too, is the air jacks. So this car is really low to the ground, meeting the minimum ride height requirements of the Optima series. And when you do that, you can't really get a jack under that car very easily. So proper race cars, proper GT race cars that I'm used to, they're also very low to the ground. Air jacks solve all those problems. It definitely solved our problems here with the Foxzilla. So you can see the cage tied into the front frame rails for stiffness, also for safety. Again, this isn't or the Fox Body Mustang isn't the strongest, stiffest chassis out there, especially by today's standards, but we were able to maintain a lot of the original structure in the car. Again, we have the late 60s stock Mustang frame rails grafted to the original car and chassis. And then going inside, there's definitely a lot going on in Foxzilla, from the dash that incorporates speakers and a full sound system with an amplifier and subwoofer, to the bespoke transmission tunnel, which again, we're fitting a massive engine and a massive T56 transmission that would not fit at this ride height and where the engine is placed in the car. So there was no cutting and modifying the original tunnel, because you're dealing with like 4, 5, 6 inches difference of where the transmission needed to sit versus where the stock transmission was. So all that was cut out for clearance as well as for exhaust, to make sure the exhaust is spaced nicely away from the driver and the tunnel of the car, as well as from the transmission. All that was packaged so the exhaust can go by the transmission and out the back. Actually didn't end up going out the back because we ran into some issues with the rear suspension design. We optimized a 3-link design, so the rear suspension is very similar to a S197 Mustang in terms of having a panhard bar and 2 trailing arms and an upper 3rd link member. With the fuel cell in place, there really wasn't very much room to route the exhaust out the back of the car. So we looked at where there was space, and there was a gap between the back seat and the front of the tire. So it just made sense to take the exhaust from right in front of the rear differential, route it up and out the side of the car, and based off of what the rockers looked like in the car, there was more room higher up. Plus it definitely looks cooler to have the exhaust shooting out the top of the rear front fenders. So that's where that ended up. But going back inside the car, we have a ECU Masters race dash and an Emtron ECU, full mil-spec wiring done by Sam at Off the Line Performance, and Tilton race floor-mounted pedal box, custom steering column to position the driver properly. We have Recaro with Recaro's racing seats. These things are awesome. I've raced in these professionally for many years, and they're fantastic. So we have 2 of them stuffed into Foxzilla, and they look great. They're deep. You sit deep inside the seats, so you have a lot of lateral support, which is really important, so you're not flopping around inside the car. You're held in place and you can feel what the car is doing. So from a driving standpoint, having a good seat is really important for performance and safety. So we have some amazing seats with Recaro in the car. Steering wheel and belts are Momo, and yeah, as far as the roll cage goes, this is kind of a morphed design from that incorporates some Ford GT elements, some Porsche GT3 race car elements. The way the down bars are additional definitely help with the overall safety of the car in a rollover. So that's kind of a mandated design feature in many proper race cars and GT cars. So this cage in Foxzilla is designed similar to that. Then out back, there's a lot of custom body paneling to shield the driver and the rear of the car from the elements of the road. There's custom wheel well arches to fit these massive 18-inch Forgeline wheels and Falcon tires. So we have wheel and tire clearance. Also from a design standpoint, Optima really places design elements and engineering as very high in their overall competition. So the execution of the car and it being finished and well finished and upholstered is really important to win these events. Out back, we also have excess power lithium battery mounted far in the back to help with weight distribution. And we have a fuel safe custom fuel cell in the back with a Weldon high performance pump. This car can run on both, or almost anything, run on race gas, pump gas, E85. Right now we're working with Ignite Racing Fuel, so we have their Ignite Red ethanol in the car, and the whole fueling system is designed to run on pretty much anything. So we have a lot of flexibility based off of the competition we're going to compete in and what we're going to do. So that pretty much finishes out the back of the car. So that wraps up our walk around Foxzilla. But Preston, you've been a part of SEMA. You built a lot of awesome SEMA vehicles, and you and your father both have for a very long time. What are your thoughts on Foxzilla compared to a lot of those other builds and projects that you guys have done in the past?
I think it's definitely on a different level. I mean, the car itself, like, this is the first time we've really worked on a dedicated, like, platform to prototype stuff, specifically with the motor package in mind and stuff like that. So we're taking, and especially with you being involved, we've taken our build process and the level of the build to a whole other level than, frankly, probably most of us are comfortable with.
I kind of pushed you guys a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we can post up the photo of, there's a great shot of you and my dad of just like the moment where we kind of all knew that things were gonna get out of control in a great way.
I remember that vividly.
Yeah. I mean, because we started with a basic idea of just making a street Mustang, and then it's like, well, let's make it something unique and take it to that next level. I mean, you've been around super cool cars. I've obviously been around super cool cars and through SEMA and marketing and stuff like that. I've frankly not seen a car quite like this in a while. So I think overall, being a part of this type of build and then having the opportunity to drive it is a whole other aspect that we haven't even talked about. But yeah, I think this car is gonna be one of the coolest Fox bodies that is out there right now. So to finish it up, get it running and driving is something that I think all of us are ready for. But yeah, I mean, you've been consulting on this for 7-8 months now, and what's your thoughts on it?
So just from my background, racing cars professionally, racing at Le Mans, working on the development of a lot of road cars like the Shelby GT350, GT500, Ford GT. It's been so much fun working with you guys because in many cases you have, in development, you have a pretty small box that you have to work in, whether that's limitations, pre-existing constraints, budget, you name it. But right, what you're talking about with your dad when the car was pretty much stock, and it's like, well, what do we do here? And I was like, well, it's the limitation. Like, if this is a limitation, we should do this. If there's no limitation, like, this would be best. Your dad's like, okay, and just like does it. And then the next thing it's like, well, what would be the best for the rear suspension? Well, Fox bodies have a pretty terrible rear suspension geometry. So ideally, without going like independent suspension, to keep everything more in line of Mustang, to keep a solid axle in the car, which can absolutely work. Like Trans Am TA2 cars, NASCAR Cup cars up until it's like this last year for the next gen have all been solid axle cars, and they're extremely fast. Like TA1 and TA2 Trans Am cars are extremely fast and are able to do it with a solid axle. You can make them work. Being a road racer and a purist myself of racing independent suspension cars, yes, they're very good. Yes, they have a lot of strengths and benefits, but you can absolutely make solid axle cars very fast. And this will be one of those.
Once we get it dialed in, I think that we'll have a very capable car to do honestly anything, whether it's drag racing, road racing, and just being an overall show car. I mean, again, looking at the car from a design point of view, every inch of the car has got something that's unique or been touched in some sort of way that gives it that flair. That's, to me, like the coolest thing is when you walk around the car, you're like, that's different, that's unique, but it looks like it's production. And that's, I think, like growing up around my dad and stuff like that has been always his style of keeping it almost aesthetically clean to that point where it's like, did it roll off the factory like that? Or was that something that they handcrafted in a way, but doing it in a way too to also give it some personality? But yeah, so I think overall, I'm super excited for this year and just to what's come, to see what's gonna come of it. I mean, we've got a month and a half till our official first race now at Road America, so it looks like we're gonna be tearing down the motor a little bit, figure out what's really at the bottom line issue, and then hit the test track. So
well, that's what's so great about what CWI Performance is doing and what Foxzilla is. Like, this really probably will be one of the coolest subjective, but I would definitely say one of the coolest, if not the coolest Fox bodies ever built. But it's probably one of the fastest, if not the fastest, most capable road race Fox body Mustang ever made. And with that rear suspension, like there's a lot of fast drag race cars out there, but I definitely think the bones are there to make this, because there's a lot of adjustability in the rear geometry where this could be a fast drag race car too. But for road racing and road racing Fox bodies, there's some pretty cool cars that raced in Europe and I think DTM that were Fox bodies, but this is just on another level of power, suspension layout than that. So I'm really excited to see how this does, but also that just helps so much in terms of credibility of the products that are perfected and tested and refined in this platform, because there probably isn't anybody who's gonna be putting an engine package like this, a Godzilla package, the parts that CWI Performance makes, and puts them in something that's going to be faster than this. So when it works here, like, no matter what you throw it in, it's going to work. So
yeah, and I think that's another cool thing that we really haven't talked about is not only you being involved with the project, but all the other individuals that have been a part of the project. I mean, you have Jim Ryder, who's from Indy Power Products, and his whole background. We could have a field day on just talking about his history in automotive history. But even my dad, he's got a shit ton of history in that. We've set some land speed records and stuff like that. But to bring all those individuals into one project, it's silly. We probably shouldn't do it again, honestly.
This is the result, but man, I just love the way it sits, the way it looks. Like, those rear fenders just look fantastic. So what your dad was able to do with that, like we were talking about different bolt-on stuff, I'm really happy that he just took the reins and got it done, and it turned out beautiful.
Yeah, so, well, I think that probably wraps up this episode. Again, we're gonna be probably tearing down the motor in the next week or two, really diving into what's going on. But if you have any other questions about the car itself or about our company, feel free to drop it in the comments and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. If you want to see more racing content on Billy's channel, what was your channel again?
It is One Lap Billy.
So yeah, go check his stuff out. It's always fun to watch him kind of set new lap records in cars that shouldn't be
cars I haven't driven before.
yeah. I mean, that's a whole other cool thing. But
I might have to do a one lap in.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what would be a good track for it though.
Doesn't matter. Because that's kind of the whole purpose of that channel is I haven't driven a given car, so how fast can I go on the first lap that I've ever driven a new car? And usually I've been within like 0.3 on my first lap of what the car is capable of, and I've set a few track records in Southern California doing that, but I definitely, well, one, really want to drive this thing, and two, yeah, that would just be an outrageously fun one-lap video. But I can't wait for you guys to get behind the wheel and start competing and winning some races with this thing. It's just so cool. Every inch that you look at it, you're like, wow, there's something there. And pretty much everything on this car has been touched, modified, improved, and yeah, it just turned out to be a really nice, cohesive, classy build that isn't hot rodded up with hot rodded parts. It's like everything's done right. So.
Yep. Again, thanks for watching, and we'll hope to see you in the next one.
Stay tuned to see this thing run.